I want to go ahead and get started. This program is brought to you in part by the City of Chandler Industrial Development Authority. We want to thank them for their support of business here in Chandler. And while everybody's getting situated, we will be back on and starting live in just a few moments. All right, good morning. I don't want to keep you any longer because we have a fabulous group of panelists this morning. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing the team of J2 Media. And I want to tell you a little bit about them because they are an award-winning team all around. And I am really excited that they're here to talk to you today. And I love the topic, shut up and shoot. So a little bit about J2 Media. It is owned and operated by their creators, Poston and Jason Heinkel. It was founded over 20 years ago with its roots in video production. The company has grown exponentially with the evolution of the communications industry to offer public relations, graphic design, web development, social media, and overall marketing. Their talented team of experts produce everything from documentaries to network television to internal training and corporate messaging to give you an edge in communicating your message. Through their wide variety of services, J2 Media works to create engaging content and effectively connect with the community and your specific audience. And I can't wait till I hope they give you a little bit of sneak peek about some of the projects that they're working on too. Their mantra is about strategy first, and that's what I love about them. Their team understands the importance of taking time to understand really about your target audience and goals and create the solution that works for each company. Your needs as a business determine which tools that they use and how to make you the best company that's out there. So Jane, Jason, Sabrina, welcome. Thank you so much. I'm not going to go into your individual bios because I want them to learn it directly from you. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
All right. I am going to turn off my microphone and camera so that our audience can hear directly from you. Also, we will take questions for this team at the end. So if you want to put those in the chat box, please feel free to do that and we'll walk you through those at the end. So go ahead, take it away.
Well, that sounds good. Well, thank you, Terry, and thanks for having us on the program today. I'm Jason Heigl. I'm a CEO president, but really I'm more of just the eye candy of this company. It's really what it is. And, this is our office space right here. We're on the north end of Chandler, the uptown section of Chandler. So it's great. We're happy to be back in the office. And from there, let me pass it on to Jane and the rest of the team.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. That was quite an introduction from everybody. So I'm Jane Poston. I'm one of the owners, and our roles here, everybody has kind of their specific role, and that's what's really good about video production typically is, Jason really is sort of that camera and that technical guy. And then I'm more on the producing and writing side and more of that writing the content and that back end sort of the production. And then I'll let Sabrina introduce herself too. She's sort of on my side of the team. So.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Sabrina Bryant, and like Jane said, I work a little bit on the post-production side, especially when it comes to video. I handle a lot of the day-to-day social media engagement, content creation, writing, just kind of jack of all trades, kind of have my hands everywhere, but do help a lot when it comes to video and social media.
Very good. Excellent. Well, as you can see, now I'm back in my office, and now hopefully everybody can hear me. But, that's kind of the power of of, the video world now and how we're able to do the Zooms and Teams and whichever you're going to go with to broadcast is there's a variety of types of equipment you can go. So you can have multiple cameras going in different areas. That wasn't quite the most seamless way to transition, but it's one that, for right now, as we are transitioning into this type of a communication world, this is a great way to do it. And as Jane has it set up on the full screen here, let's just jump right into what we've got going on and what we're doing and how we make this thing happen. And you know what? I'll run over to her office and get her.
There we go. I'm sorry. Okay, let's go back. I'm going to start over. I apologize. I told you Jason's the technical guy. I forgot to hit my button. I was trying to keep it quiet.
That was the secret to the golden chocolate bar right there. You just missed it. She just said it. So.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to start over. So I'm pre-production. I'm the stuff that happens before you actually see the fun, exciting things happen when you see the cameras and all the lights and all of that kind of stuff. Typically, ideally about 2 weeks, maybe even a month ahead of time, you're starting to do the things that I'm going to talk about. And I'm just going to go in order here and kind of show you what I have on the screen. I'm going to show you a few examples of what I think is really important. And anytime I talk to anyone, this is the one thing I say first is know your audience. So I'm just going to show you a couple of video examples that fall right in line with some of the things that I wanted to talk about. So the first one is a video that I think we've all seen it. Most of us have been to a conference and the CEO speaks and all of that. This was one where we brought in we had the conference, the CEO was speaking to his team. They had been working really long hours. They were launching and moving into states across the Southwest. But those are typically fairly, I'm just going to say it, a lot of times you hear a CEO speak up on a stage and it's kind of boring. He wanted to get his team excited. He wanted to be inspirational, and he had some people that he admired that you'll see that we took a little. This was an internal video only. So you don't typically see some of the things that you'll see in this video, but it was shown only to his team specifically, and we use it for demonstration purposes. So I am going to share that right now. Now let me share my screen here. And we'll watch.
May have to reshare. Oh, there you go.
I am. There we go.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind
we got our employees telling us we're the best. We're the best. Our patients are telling the national leaders the best at what we do. We're not number 2, number 3. We're the best. That's who we are as a company. We're the top 1%, folks. And that's our patients telling us. That's not some political baloney. That's the folks that saying, hey, you guys are number one, right? That's a lot to be proud of. You know, we're going to change the delivery of emergency medicine in our country. There's a desperate need for access to high quality emergency care.
I'm going to go ahead and just stop that one right there. I don't want to make everybody watch every
That was-
single ounce of video that we done today. But honestly, the entire point is he was trying to get his audience inspired and get them feeling good. And that was done with a lot of things that we did there. We took the kind of typically dull person up on stage, and I apologize to every CEO out there, but we turned them black and white. He really admired JFK and that sort of inspiration of landing somebody on the moon. So as the fact that the CEO was our audience, we put him up there with JFK and that quote. You heard the music build. So it was all of those things that that company wanted to achieve, but all the different elements that we were thinking about between the visuals and the audio and making it interesting and trying to make it engaging beyond what you just typically see. So the next one I am going to share with you. And I apologize because, you know, Zoom is not always the slickest when it comes to sharing your screen, etc. So I got to pop up here and pop my Zoom. Somebody else can talk a little bit.
You know, and that's
going here.
And seeing how the videos, you know, struggle sometimes, you know, that's where, you know, right now technology, everybody's accepting everything as we see on cameras and computers and streaming video. You know, if all of us and every company is running some high-end fiber, and then that would be great. But you know, this is for every company or everybody's trying to reach out to different customers or clientele. Right now it is what it is, and we just kind of do with what you can with the ability that you have. I mean, we're fortunate we have you know, well, you know, our internet right now, you know, we're fairly decent, but sometimes it just doesn't work right, and Zoom kind of bites you in the ankle a little bit. And it's just one of those where you just hope you can work out and everybody can understand.
Yeah, exactly. So for instance, I'm running 3 screens here and it'll only let me share, obviously, the one that I don't want to share, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just pop up. I'm going to skip the PowerPoint for a little bit. What I should have done is let somebody else run the PowerPoint while I was talking. So my apologies there.
Well, see, we can do motions, hand, you know, jazz hands, and we can act out the videos how we want to do it. So, you know, I can run over to Sabrina's and we can do the video right now of how it should be. So let's see if
All
this
right. Well,
goes.
I'm going to pop into the next one here. So the next one is know what you want your audience to do. Okay. So everybody has a goal, but a lot of times when it comes to the pre-production side, you know, you start getting in because the fun part is going and talking to people and doing all of that. But sometimes you really skip what you want to happen when that video is over. This one, and I want to see if anybody in the chat, so somebody besides me maybe can watch the chat and see if anybody can tell me what you thought we wanted the audience to do in this one. All right, I let that one run a little long because, we're all kind of Chandler High fans when they are winning. And, that was also in honor of Sabrina, who is also a Chandler High grad. But as this goes on, obviously, this is one of those things that they ran. And again, it's where it's going to run, where you're going to see it. Are you going to see it on a website? Are you going to see it somewhere else? This was what they put on the big screen. They got this big new board. It's what they put on the big screen before the team ran out through the through that little tunnel that they do. So what we wanted the audience to do, and I'm going to just sort of fast forward ahead. If you know anything about Chandler High, they howl. And so we wanted the audience, who was our Chandler High students, to start feeling like they were part of the team. You hear that music building, you hear all of them getting really excited. Here it is. We're like, we hope that every Chandler High student hops up there and begins to howl. And that's exactly what they did. They started pounding along on the bleachers. It was really fun to go to the games and see this because they started pounding along with the bleachers. They started howling along with it. But it was also sort of an intimidation factor that they wanted for the other team. They wanted to look kind of slick, kind of corporate, and kind of like big dogs. I don't know if you have anything you want to share with that, Jason. Jason really managed that one himself, or, kind of with being the football fan.
There you go. Yeah. And it's like that. You for all the sports fans and people who go to the football games, high school, college, the NFL, there's always that hype video that gets you out there, and that helps get the fans going. And that was the idea behind this one. And like Jane said, they just bought a brand new screen, and so they're trying to figure out a way to introduce this new screen to the students. And so we had the opportunity to put this together and create something with with the support of the coach and the AD and the principal, and we were able to go in there and knock this out. And honestly, on the production side of this, we did this in about a day, and the production side, and then the post production was probably about 2 to 3 days, and that was it. Because with a lot of clients, and this isn't all of them, but some of them are, hey, we need to put a video together, and well, what's the deadline? Last month. And so when is the first game? Oh, in 4 days. Oh, okay. Well, so that's kind of how it ended up. And we turn it around, and that's kind of, I'm not saying that that's our MO, but we understand it. Our background has been the news industry and the run and gun of how news changes every minute. We kind of were born and bred in that area of video and television. So for us to turn around like that and just make it happen, and that's kind of our nature.
Well, and it's kind of also a little bit, now it's going to be, I'm going to make an opposite point about planning. We've done this for we've been in business, it's 21 years this year, so that's pretty exciting for us. But with 21 years of experience, we can probably plan pretty fast. My biggest recommendation, though, and I had this great quote on the screen, but I'm not going to fight the technology anymore, but is about planning. And I want to just show this one really quick and talk about what we did with it. It's less about the content, and it's a little more about what we did with the video itself. And it's something that I highly recommend everybody who's planning on investing in video for themselves, whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're using a company, do this to get the most out of your video in terms of planning. So I'm going to show you something. It's from a company we work with. It's called Risk Assessment Group. It's one of our favorite companies. They are they are a brand new chamber member. So, we can show them this morning. So here we go.
There are certain cues that we look for in human behavior as HR professionals that you're not able to see by conducting interviews online. And so we're looking for other ways to get clues about somebody's behavior. Media background screening is the answer to that. Let's say, for instance, that the keywords and the behaviors that you want to look for are violence. So we can use.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause that one and stop sharing my screen here. So most of you probably aren't going to be doing background screening, so it wasn't about the content on that one, but I did want to show you the video. So the person that we interviewed, and of course this is days of COVID, so we're trying to be very careful, and we're doing our interviews 6 feet apart, and we're not using lav mics anymore, we're using boom mics, all of those things, and we're trying to limit our contact. And that person there, Bill, you know, he's very careful about limited contact. Going to do that interview, we want to get the most out of it as possible. So what we did here, and because, you know, we're a little bit more limited in how much video we can go and gather and we can go and get, and most of you out there who might be doing that might be in the same position, is that, you know, we used a lot of graphics and images. And when I talk about planning, you know, we do that interview with Bill. That was an interview that probably lasted, it was what, maybe a couple of hours we had him here. We let him take breaks, we did this. But a big part of what we were doing was the planning. Because we can't go out and do as much, we're like, well, we want to get these little social media videos for you, but how many can we get in one time in one nice sit down interview? So this one, we knew that social media background screening was coming up, but we also know he has a conference coming up in July and he'll be doing some online stuff. So we interviewed him about that and maybe some of the topics that he'd like to talk about. But if you're not planning, if you're just like, I'm just going to go get this one thing done, you know, my thought is we're planning what those questions are, what his answers are, what he wants to talk about. We're not just looking at that one, we're looking at what he's doing in the next 6 months and the next year, because you gather that interview once and then you use it about 3 or 4 or 5 different times. And then the benefit of that is, especially if you are, you know, taking on having a company like us do this, is that if we go out once, you know, we charge you once, but if you bring us out 2 and 3 and 4 different times, we're, you know, you're going to have to charge for that 2 or 3, 4 different times that we go there. But that one day, if we can get a lot of material, even if we're not going to use it right away, we can have that for the long term. So anything you want to jump in, Jason, Sabrina?
Sabrina.
We're going to put her on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, just on that, just kind of what Jane was mentioning specifically with risk assessment group in terms of that big picture planning is look at what you have upcoming social media wise. Look at what you know is trending in your industry. Look at what topics, you know, what might be coming down the pipe in 2, 3, 4 months. It might be March now, but we're still going to have the 4th of July. So you can go and you can pre-plan and get that content to kind of front load the organization or the planning of your content calendar. So it's kind of another way that that organization helps you with another facet of your business.
Excellent. Exactly. It's always about the planning and then the running and gunning when we have to. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here for Jason, and you should have the video production screen going.
There it is.
Back.
Yeah. That screen's bigger in Dallas, as they say. So really, you know, a lot of it is, you know, right now, video is the key to getting out your message. It is crazy from all the cameras behind me to, you know, you're using your phone to capture anything that's going on. And I think video became, I think, more prevalent now and a priority once TMZ became a credible source. Then all of a sudden now, because they just run out there with their phones and their little cameras and stuff. But really, the bottom line is video is the strongest part of getting messages across to everybody, from internal training to communications to even promoting your own businesses. The simple videos, or even going into the higher end production videos, are key. And it's, you know, as you see on the screen, you know, most of the people, they, you know, I like the best one here, about 20% of remember what they read and 80% of what they watch. I'm always about, everybody talks about, well, did you read that book? No, I saw the movie. And there's a lot of people that do just that. And, you know, you get the hundreds and hundreds of people and all the books in the libraries. And I know Jane and I, we go back and forth on this because she'll read, you know, 400 books in a week. And I'm like, yeah, I just saw that movie the other day. But you take in more from what you see. And as she's shaking her head because it's just, drives her nuts. But really, what it is the video is just a key to helping the training and helping getting the message across. And what's great is the prices have gone down quite a bit. So 20 years ago, when you're buying a broadcast quality camera, you're spending anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. You know, now you go on Amazon and you can get a higher quality camera from back then now for $200. And I mean, even your cell phone takes great pictures and videos and images and all that. But really, it's, you know, looking for the right equipment is a key. And knowing what your subject is and knowing what you want to focus on, that really is a key component to the video world. And for me, it's, you know, it's the main element to get your point across to anybody in the video world. And even from the you know, your corporate 100s to the mom and pops down the road, video works, and it helps train, and it helps educate everybody and promote. It is just so much easier. And for now, it's easier to be able to, you know, send that training video to somebody on their phone or some type of device, and you can learn right on the spot. I know for some of our clients, we do that. Some of our Fortune 100, you know, big companies, they've got this video online and they're learning how to operate a certain piece of equipment. And you can't get that in a 3-4 inch SOP manual. So it's, you know, it's one of those key pieces that we really, really push for our companies, our clients, everybody to be able to, you know, get that message across.
So I actually was just going to jump in because those SOP manuals, those are our favorite things to get. You know, you get this big, huge book and, you know, people, you know, we talk to clients who are like, nobody reads it. Nobody ever pays any attention to this. And that happens all the time. We're like, yeah, because it's awful. And, you know, the one thing you do want to avoid doing is taking every piece of information in that manual and making a video out of it, because you do have to keep people's attention and it be engaging and all of that, you know, all of that. You want it to actually do the job. And really a lot of it is even making sure they know where to go. Hey, go to your SOP for more detail on this particular item. You don't have to give them every single little bit of information. I actually saw a question and that came through like, how do you gather video coverage and how do you know what you are going to need? In a perfect world, you're writing the script ahead of time. You have your idea of what I want to accomplish is, so let's say I'm doing an interview with somebody and what I want to accomplish is, you know, teaching them about this culture. So I know we're going to, you know, get all that information and I pretty much want to know how they're going to answer the question before I ask it. This is not news. News, you know, they should be asking questions and not know the answer, and we shouldn't do that ahead of time. We know what we want out of this. This is production. This is your piece that's to promote your business. So if we're talking about, you know, the culture, a bit about what that culture is, and maybe it involves certain clothing, maybe it involves family gatherings, all of those sorts of things. I'm kind of making this up as I go. Well, if those are the things that I know I'm going to need, then I'm going to have my person talk about clothing and I'm going to have that person talk about family. That goes back to the planning again. I know that I better need to let that client know, hey, can you either be wearing that piece of clothing? Can you bring me your most precious item and be ready to talk about it? And then that's what I'm going to show. If I'm going to talk about family and culture and family being part of your culture and what I'm trying to convey, well, I want to see a family and I'd love to see them at a party park, and I'd love to see, mom pushing the kid on the swing, or them having a family dinner together, if that's part of it. So it's knowing what you want out of that video so that you can get an idea of what those visuals are. And then of course, you get somebody like Jason who goes out and just captures everything possible, and he's getting cool creative shots and things that maybe you didn't plan for, and then you write around it again. So should we go ahead and move on to Sabrina and
Well,
sort of the next piece? Or did
I
you
know
want
Sabrina's got a lot of good stuff to say. Let me just answer a couple of little questions I saw on here in regards to video. Hold your thoughts, Sabrina, because I'm sure it's good stuff. So let's one of some of the biggest mistakes that you have out there in the video world is there are three main areas, and that's lighting, audio, and then the video itself. So if you got to make sure when you're shooting, wherever you're recording, if you're recording yourself and you're sitting at your computer and you want to make sure, and you're going to put together a message you're going to send out to everybody, make sure you have some type of a key light or some kind of a lighting on you that helps. Because you want to be able to see the people, you want to be able to, and also present a good image. Two is also audio. Key to have audio. So I am hoping that our audio sounds pretty good, because if not, then that's my fault. But having some type of an external microphone is key to helping that. And then also your background. Obviously, you don't want to have, if you're doing it from your computer like this, you don't want to have the back windows like where Jane's sitting. You don't want to have those windows wide open, because then all of a sudden she's blown out and you can't see her. Or if you have your overhead lights off, then all of a sudden, that person's out. But making sure your area is set up and is clean, and if you can see that it looks pretty good, then most of the time it will be pretty good. And then the other question, one last one, was some of the editing software. Look, there's a million pieces of software out there that you can use to edit. It's just a matter of what you like. There's the iMovie, there's the Adobe Suite, which is good, where you have Premiere in there. Or if you're working on Apple's, and it's Final Cuts. Really, it's what your learning capacity is. iMovie is pretty straightforward, kind of a prosumer type of editing software. Everything else, it's almost like you got to have a 4-year degree in order to do it and to use it. It's like Nike, Adidas, whatever one you really like, then you got to go with it. But if you do, there are some straightforward editing softwares that can help, help you put these things together. People are editing on their iPhones now. So it's not having to go out and buy the, $50,000 editing software. We're editing on our phone. So those are the two things. Now, Sabrina, it is your stage. Open it up. Take us home.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. So one thing I did just want to touch on is don't be discouraged about video, because honestly, today, as compared to 20 years ago, the barrier of entry is so low. Like Jason mentioned, you have kind of that, I don't want to say cheap, because that's not the right word. You have more inexpensive equipment. You have apps on the market that help you with editing. You have a ton of resources at your disposal. So it doesn't have to be some big scary thing. So don't let anything discourage you. You can do as little or as much as you're comfortable with. But today, mainly what I wanted to talk to you guys about is how you're going to use that video that you've just produced and why it's important. So there's a lot of text on the screen. I'm not going to read it to you guys, because I know that you will get this information from the chambers. So we're just going to kind of go over some of the key points. The first thing you need to consider is specs. This is important because each social media platform has slightly different requirements in terms of video dimensions, pixel size, aspect ratio, file size, et cetera, et cetera. And if the specs for the video don't match what you're trying to, like the platform you're posting on, you're going to have some trouble. It's going to be tricky. So for example, on Facebook, they recommend a video dimension of 1280 by 720 and landscapes with a 16:9 aspect ratio, but that's completely different on LinkedIn. So if you're trying to post the same video on Facebook versus LinkedIn, you're going to have to treat that file differently at export to be able to optimize it for that platform. And a key tip for this is just provide all of those specs to your editor, or if that's you, just be aware of what those specs are. That way, from the very beginning, they can build you those versions that you need, and you don't have to go back later on and say, oh, can I have, a Twitter version or an Instagram version or whatever the case is. And the guide that I use for this is Sprout Social. That's kind of a social planning app management software. And they have a really good up-to-date guide that they keep track of all these different specs for the social media platform. So we'll give you the link to that as well. But that's kind of what I would do, is just bookmark that, have that in your back pocket, because that's always up to date and it will never steer you wrong with what those what those ratios should be. And the next thing that you need to talk about when you're concerned with what you're doing with your video is the algorithm. You guys might be familiar with this, but if you aren't, it's basically just a formula that allows a social media platform to determine where on a user's feed your content will appear. Obviously, we want our content seen, so we have to play nice with the algorithm. And one of the ways that we can do that is using video. Because many of the platforms, specifically LinkedIn, that's one that heavily kind of favors video, they will reward your content with a higher placement than, say, text or photo-based if it does include video. So that's a good way that you can kind of get your post higher up in that ranking, basically, that people see when they look at their feed. And across the board on all platforms, something else that helps with that placement is high engagement. That's likes, shares, retweets, clicks, whatever it is. And it's probably not a shock, but something that helps skyrocket engagement is video. So if you post your video rather than a text-based or photo-based ad saying the exact same thing, you're going to get higher engagement, which will thus, again, help you with that placement and that algorithm. So if you understand how an algorithm works, you can use your video content to kind of help leverage higher placement and get your content seen by your audience. And on the screen here, I have some of these different markers and signals for the different social media apps. So Facebook, they use signals like reactions, comments, and shares. LinkedIn, they use lengthy comments. So like the length of a comment, if you just type out, great shot at a nice photo, that's great and all. But if you say, oh, that's a nice shot, that looks like this location, I went there before, how did you like it? That's going to be rewarded a lot higher versus just nice shot. I don't know if Jane or Jason have anything to add on that.
I was kind of looking at some of the comments in the chat, Sabrina, and a couple of them were, and I think you addressed a couple of them, but one was, what's the frequency of your video posts to help with the algorithm and get you more views? I mean, I think it kind of changes based on the platform a little bit, or do you want to address that a little bit?
Yeah, so the frequency with which you post video kind of should determine, or should be dictated by A, your business, and B, your platform. So if you are using Instagram, if that's where your market is, you might be a lot more apt to use video because that's a strictly photo and video based app. If you have a core market that, let's say, if you cater to Gen Z, you want to be on TikTok all the way, and you want to be posting 2, maybe 3 TikToks every day. So it really just depends on your strategy. But at the very least, I mean, we try to, for a lot of our clients, we try to put out at least a new video once a month, because that helps really drive that engagement up. And we see that the residual engagement from that video kind of creates a domino effect and a fallout on that page that lasts beyond that. And then I see also the ideal length of time for a short video. That's one of the questions. I personally am a fan of the shorter the better, because even though videos do perform better and they do keep attention more than a text or a photo-based ad, humans still don't have that long of an attention span. When you're scrolling through social media and you see a video, you might watch 30 seconds, a minute, if it's really interesting. So I say the shorter the better. It's just like a good article. You want to have the most important content right at the very top, and then kind of filter and trickle down your way as you get through the article. And that's kind of the same approach that I would take for a video, because you don't want to lose that audience. That's the main thing. You want to say what you need to say before they dip out.
That's a great way to put it. You know what? One of the final do's and don'ts that I thought about, and it was also when Jason was talking, was, if you remember, one time we put together like a little kit and for a fairly large client and set it out all over the country. Let them shoot their own videos, because we had a very short time span. I think it was 200-300 videos within the period of 3 to 4 weeks, and they were all going to come back to us, and we were going to edit, and they were going to launch this program. And the one thing everybody forgets about is audio, and nobody cares about audio until it's not there. And it's one of the very few things that we can do very little about. I mean, next to nothing. The programs can kind of help clean it up a little bit, but if you don't have somebody saying something, you don't have somebody saying something. And what we found is quite a few of these videos that came back to us, the person was standing right under an air conditioning unit. So they're there and they have their mic and they're all ready to go. And that thing would turn on and blast, or they're not paying attention to the fact that somebody's out there, blowing leaves outside. So like really it's having all of your senses together and ready to go. But I did want to say that about the audio, because that's one of the biggest don'ts that I think everybody forgets about. Those audio guys get no respect. So, but they deserve it at least a little.
One of the questions that came up earlier, and I want to make sure that we've addressed it. I know Jason touched on it a little bit, but what is the biggest mistake people make in doing their own video?
Oh my God. Yeah, the biggest mistake sometimes is like being too close to the camera like that, or not having the proper headroom. And we call that, there's another one. There's also this bullseye syndrome, and that's being straight on the camera. And if you're, you want to make sure you've got some life there on your camera, and it's, the do's and don'ts. There's so, well, as I would say, is years ago, there were a lot of don'ts in the video world. And back when we all went to school, the Walter Cronkites of the world, when he was going on, there were a lot of don'ts. And that has changed now to where everything is acceptable. But you still need to have, the image needs to be in focus. Lighting is a key to it. Proper headroom from where the edge here to my, those things are ideal. Those, you just got to try and set that up and make it work the best that you can. If you think you look good on there, then most likely it's going to look good on the other end. So those are some of the pieces I think. And and then having like a ball like this, you can always squeeze, so when you're talking, you can feel a little better about what you're talking about. But
well, and I will tell you, I know that in the past when the Chambers worked with your company, one of the things that really shines with your company is, Jane talked about it. It's that interview, that setup, that preparing ahead of time. And we don't know the questions that we need to know to ask. And you have just an innate way of just having those conversations and drawing that out of people to build that quality product in the end. Because, and I know that when we sit down to look at something that you've shot, it's like, wow, how did you get that?
What's funny, Terry, is a lot of times I'll talk to people and they'll be like, well, do you want me to give you a list of questions? Because I'll typically do a lot of the interviewing. And I'm like, I don't particularly need you to give me a lot of questions. What I'd like you to give me is, what answers do you want? Because the answers are what you're going to put on camera, right? So if I know what answers you want, then we've done this long enough, and most skilled interviewers can do this. I'm going to be able to get that question. I'm going to be able to come up with the question that gets you that answer. But if I don't know what answer you want, I might take whatever you give me. But if I do, and I'm not hearing the answer from you, I'm going to stop you and I'm going to say, hey, let's maybe take a little break and talk about something else. Or, you always hear, and Terry, I know you've heard this from us, is, you're going to say it perfectly, and I'm going to ask you to say it 3 more times. And anybody who has ever been on camera before knows, you'll sit there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and we'll use 15 seconds. And really it's because we're looking for those complete sentences and the complete thought where maybe you aren't being a little distracted and going down another path. Because what we really want to do is make you look great. And, we're trying to do that in that 15-second segment. So if we know what answer we're trying to get out of you, we can kind of come up with those questions. And sometimes that can be really difficult for people. It's not about what questions you ask. It's about making sure you get those right answers that convey what you want to convey about your business.
One of the other things that that it takes a special eye that I don't even think that you guys, it's about what that picture, what that looks like. And you have this innate eye, and I guess that's the cameraman, that's the Jason, because you get that, what it's going to look like and what that end result is. And that's a real talent.
Well,
I don't want your head to get too big.
Yeah, it's because those eyes were surgically repaired is why. Prior to that,
it's also just a lot of practice too. I mean, it's a creative muscle, and the more you flex it, the more you use it and work it out, the better you get at seeing that really good shot or having that creative idea that you can, use to make that video. So there is a little bit of, natural talent or vision, but it's something anyone can do because it's just like, playing baseball, practice makes perfect,
So one
from
of the
a true J2 employee. Thank you.
One of the things that you also in your videos that's really captivating is you talked about it a little bit, but can you expand upon why the music and the sounds and the transition are so important in a really high quality video?
Do you want to do that, Jason, or you want me to?
Well, you can go ahead, and I'm sure I'll say a little something afterwards. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, unless you're doing really something that is centered around music, you want the music to be something that you almost don't even notice, but that you feel. So like when we showed that sort of CEO video at the beginning, I'm assuming that you were listening to what people were saying and hearing it, but it begins to create, I'm just a big believer in the energy that music creates. You sort of, it can begin to build that anticipation. Kind of the same thing in the football video. It kind of starts off small, and then you start to hear people do the haka and do those things, and it just begins to build that energy and jump out at you. It's not something that you want to be competing with what you're seeing and with what the people are saying, because that can vary, that happens a lot. And if that's happening and you are really like listening to the music, you've picked the wrong music. And so it should really support it in a way that you hear it, but you are not focusing on it, because you really want the focus to be the message. And that music, I think, just helps build an energy and an emotion around it.
And also the side part, another part of that is, once you select that music, you still need to keep in mind that if you are creating a video, you can't just grab any music that's off on the radio. I want this Blake Shelton song underneath. We all
want the Blake Shelton song underneath.
Exactly. There's a music police out there in the FCC. You really, if you are going to use the video and you're going to put it out there and you're going to make money off of it, you're going to get shut down, because that's, those are the rights. But so that's where you got to go. That's probably one of the biggest don'ts, is don't use music already been produced. There's a lot of areas out there where you can purchase music, where you can have your own license on it, and then you can use that. So that's one big thing. And you can find those, there's a lot of different websites out there for stock music.
Right. And what's really cool about those music libraries is they actually, a lot of them even have a sounds like. So if you kind of have a song that you like, you can go in and find something that gives you that same feel, and they have all of those things. So we only use licensed libraries, and because we don't want to put all the work in and then have YouTube just shut you down for no particular reason.
So I think so the next video, we're going to create a TikTok video for Terry Kimball with a little Lady Gaga. So there we go. We'll put that out there and it'll be for free.
Oh man. Well, one of the other questions that I had that you guys, you kind of read people's mind is the use of the graphics and what fonts should be used, I think is important in what, so it's not just a homemade video. Does somebody want to talk about that?
Use Mistral all day long, no matter what. No,
we always, that's one of the first things we ask is we ask for client standards if they have them. So we make sure that we go in there. But the other thing is you try and produce that video. We're all watching on our computers or on our phones these days. So but you do want to make it a size that fits your screen. Don't overload it. It's all of those things. A nice sans serif font is usually typically very legible for people. So yeah, you want to fit in the brand standards and just make sure you're not putting too much on there, because people can only read so many words in a matter of the time that it's up there. So, if you're going to have somebody's name up there, you want that up there for at least 5 seconds, or people aren't going to be able to catch it. If you're just trying to fly something by and it's just one word, that can go pretty fast. People can pick that up, but yeah.
Great.
Just follow the brand standards, for heaven's sakes, please.
Well, but again, that's why people should go to a professional video production company too, because some of these things they just don't know. They like what they see, the end result. They just don't know how sometimes to get to that end result. So, which I want to talk a little bit about. People have the misnomer that video production, that, oh my gosh, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it will.
We would love it to cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
No. Do you want to, I mean, I think we tried to address that even during this particular webinar, Terry, in that, like, here's some ways that you can be cost effective. If you're going to have somebody, that's part of the planning. Get 3 or 4 or 5 different topics out of an interview that you're going to ask us to do. And maybe we don't edit it right away. Maybe your budget, you haven't fit your fiscal year in your budget. We'll wait to edit that when you're ready. Typically, I don't know, I'll let Jason talk. His thing is always, if you are willing to let us know what your budget is, we'll tell you what we can do in that budget. And then you tell us that's enough or it's not enough. The more open and more comfortable you can be sharing that budget, because if you tell me you want a 3-minute video or a minute-long video, that can be very quick and very simple and very cost effective. But if it means 5 different locations and a drone and you want animation, that same minute-long video can be very, very different. So it is about having that comfort level with whomever you're working with, and knowing that if you give us a little more parameters, we can give you really good guidance on what it will be. And we're not out there to try and play games and try and use all the budget just because you have it. But if you tell us what it is, we can tell you what we can accomplish in that.
And I love the component that you really kind of, one of your other strengths with your company is really working with those companies, because like I said, a lot of people don't know what they want when they come to you. They know that they want a video. Okay, so how do you get there? And you really help that company grow. All right, what is the next step? How do we take you to the next step? How do we take you to the next step? And I think that takes a very special talent and a very special team. So,
thank you. You're like our best promoter, really.
No, I mean,
we've worked together a long, long time, so it's been fantastic. I'm sorry, Jason, I interrupted.
I was just going to say, what I think what sets us apart, I think, from a lot of companies, with the 3 of us here and the rest of our team, is we try and understand what the company we're working with. We try to understand their product. We become their content expert, just like they are. And so I think that helps. We don't just go in there and shoot it and produce it and put it on social and do whatever and just get it out and send it out because that's just a paycheck. No, we live and breathe and that product. And I think that's where we get to a point where we completely understand what the client's wanting to get across and their messages and what they want to show and how do they want to post out there. It's the language that they use. And I think that's what sets us apart from a lot of companies. We could be the LA companies or the New York companies and charge you 100 times what it could be. But you know what, in the end, I would say probably 90% of our clients we have a relationship with right now. And where if we see them on the street, it's a hey, and it's or let's go out for a cocktail or a cup of coffee and talk about what you need. And that's really, I think, the biggest part of our company and what we try to do.
And that's why the video, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jane.
Oh, I was going to say it's that sort of your story, your way. A lot of people have taglines or don't believe in them, but we really feel like, and we say this sort of at the end of the day, it is your story. This is what you as a business are putting out there. And you have a message and you have a culture. And so it's not about us. I mean, we can give you expert guidance and tell you what we think will work and what won't, but really that message has to be true to your company's DNA. So,
wow. And that was so well said, whether it's working with your company or whatever. When you are producing a video, it needs to be your story, your business's story, and it needs to be their way. So perfect. I really thank all three of you. Your team, I've worked with many of your team members, and this is just a small snippet of who's on their team, but I appreciate great tips and just kind of getting down to the basics, just as that educational piece. So I want to thank all of you at J2 Media. You're an amazing team. And thank you to the City of Chandler, the IDA, for continuing these program series. Next week, tune in for Cybersecurity 101, protecting your business from online threats. And we have experts from Nexus Tech that will be joining us. So thank you all of you for our watching, and we will go ahead and get you their PowerPoint. So if you want to learn more about this company, J2 Media, you can contact them directly. Thanks again for making it an awesome seminar today, guys. Thanks.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a good one.